Hey there, Internet. Felix Finch back again. And once again with me is Brittany. How you doing, Brittany?
Good. How are you? Hi, everyone. We're here, episode one.
I know, it's not like we just finished the intro like 10 minutes ago and only took a break for a bowl of rice.
I should have changed my shirt. I should have, you know, done something else.
We'll,
I
we'll
don't
do that
know.
for when we film episode 2. I have a wall of pins. I will choose one of those many pins to throw onto my hat. I actually have two Lucha Underground themed ones. There's a Joey Ryan one up there, but getting ahead of myself. Yeah, speaking of my pins, you can see I've got my co-host here on my head. But we are here on Underground Lucha Things, where we're here to go through a retrospective, if you will, of the El Rey show Lucha Underground. Brittany, episode 1, what was your thoughts before this show aired? Like, the first time you were going to see it, because you've seen the show, I haven't. Like, what made you get into Lucha Underground to begin with?
One, Rodriguez, because I love his films. I've seen a lot of things. And so seeing something that was a little different and a little more cinematic, which is a word I would probably use a lot for this kind of genre of wrestling, is cinematic. It made me want to. It seemed gritty. It seemed dark, and so I was really excited. And so even just the opening little clips and like the little promos and little things leading up to the first episode, I was already hooked. Like I was already in. I was like, this is going to be like a movie. This is going to be like everything that's like Planet Terror and like Quentin Tarantino and just like gritty, just raw. And I was excited. I was set. And you got to experience that now. What, 6 years later?
Yeah, yeah, about like 6 years later. Because again, I know about half the roster of this show. Like, I'm sure as we go further through, I'm gonna run into even more people I've known or I've worked with or I've had matches with. Probably none of them I pin because I win like one match every 3 years for the past 13 years. So we'll see. But it's just kind of cool. It is something very different. There's one specific thing that I do not like that this show does, and I'll talk about it a little later. But overall, I really like the way this starts up. To get to the opening, this first episode, it's called Welcome to the Temple. It aired October 29th of 2014. Now, did you watch this when it came out or slightly afterward?
No, I watched it when it came out. I had the El Rey Network, so I watched almost. I say the first two seasons I watched as they were debuting, as they were premiering. So I did watch it when it first came into creation, as it were. I guess you could say.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said, I didn't have it. That's one of the main reasons I didn't watch it because I didn't have any kind of television package, let alone the El Rey network. And it wasn't like WWE where there was an app I could just use and get the El Rey network. But we start off in this show with there's an opening fight. There's a luchador kind of being recruited in the streets. They suddenly link that to the ancient Aztecs and the tribes of the Aztecs, which represented by lucha spirit animals. It's very cinematic.
Yeah, I mean, they're reaching a little, but I mean, they definitely try to set a backstory, as it were. And yeah, it's strange that they go from like street and then all of a sudden they're like, but here's his heritage and this is the long bloodline. And then, of course, later on, the story develops more and more. But this first episode of them like just showing you the little droplets of like why lucha is lucha, but also bringing in like Aztecs and even more, and just kind of trying to tie all of that in together because it's from the same area and same heritage, but it's not necessarily all from the same area and heritage. But they do a good job trying to tie it in, pull it in.
Yeah, and apparently this had some kind of link with AAA because one of the first shots we see is the authority figure Dario Cueto, which I actually specifically recognize him from one spot. There's this movie called The Boys and Girls Guide to Getting Down, and he plays a cocaine dealer in it. And he has one line.
Also,
in that
not
movie.
far from what he is right in this show.
True. Yeah, so it's kind of cool because that immediately I'm like, okay, this guy's an actor, but still. I think it benefited the show to have an actor in the authority figure role instead of bringing in some former wrestler or whomever was actually in charge of everything. Vampiro, for example, and we'll get into Vampiro in a second because
Oh,
Vampiro is it because oh yeah, by the way, Dario Cueto shows up at Triple Mania and says that he is going to recruit all the luchadors to his new promotion. All of them, yes. And our commentary team is Matt Stryker and Vampiro. I love Matt Stryker. I was a huge fan of Matt Stryker back in ZCW days. Your teacher. I think that he is a supremely underrated personality. But that's just me. I mean, what do you think of this team itself?
I love it. I've worked with Matt Stryker, so to see him in this was great. I mean, it's him and Vampiro are just gold, and their friendship and I guess the way that they work together on the commentary table is already like in the first episode so solid. There's, I mean, a little hiccups here and there as the first episode goes along, but it's so great. I mean, and Dario Cueto, going back to him, it is a really good idea to have an actor. I didn't think about that until you said it, and I was like, yeah, it's such a great idea because then you don't have old wrestling grudges and you don't have these old histories or people linking him to that company or this company and yada, yada, yada. So like for him to come in just straight off, fresh face, no connection to wrestling whatsoever except for this character is a great ploy because you could do anything with it. Nobody has any hang-ups or anything being like, oh, well, he was that guy on that one show and that one wrestling show and all that kind of stuff. So I like it. I do. And Matt Stryker is fantastic. He's great to work with. He's hilarious, and he could fit into any role when it comes. He can do anything.
Yeah, and Dario Cueto does come out, and he says that the most impressive luchador will receive $100,000, which he keeps in a pretty conspicuous briefcase.
And it's a very tiny briefcase for $100,000, I think.
Honestly, $100,000, even if you get that in ones, I mean, 100,000 bills.
I mean, I'll take $100,000 in ones.
Yeah, but 100,000 bills isn't as many as you would think it would be. Like, if you ever see like $1 million in hundreds, it's not that much because a stack of hundreds is like is a $10,000.
$1 million in hundreds.
I have, but and it's not as impressive as it seems. Oh, hey, it wasn't my $1 million. Are you kidding? I'm here with like a green screen. I'm using an Xbox Kinect as a camera.
I mean, look at my beautiful background.
It's like the only reason I'm able to do the show properly is I found a desk this morning downstairs in the hallway that said free on it, and it happened to fit. And it is clearly like the fake wood Walmart. Oh, what's in there?
Oh, we're going to uncover things.
New discoveries, but yeah. So we start out with our first match of this episode. Then the first match of Lucha Underground, we have Blue Demon Jr. versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. It's good. They're safe. It's a really good introduction to Lucha with two guys who people in the U.S. are more familiar with. I mean, obviously you're familiar with Chavo if you watched any WWE in the early 2000s. Late 90s, even if you watch WCW, you're familiar with Chavo. He has a lot of equity invested in him. And the Blue Demon Jr. adds legitimacy to the Lucha side because you may not know him here in the States, but he is a legend down in Mexico. And like Blue Demon, Mil Mascaras, and El Santo are the main three of Lucha. And Blue Demon Jr. is carrying on that Blue Demon name. Had you had any familiarity with him before this?
I did have familiarity with Blue Demon Jr. and with Chavo, of course. Anybody who doesn't know Chavo, just leave. But Chavo Guerrero and Blue Demon Jr. were just so, you're right. It was a great opening to familiarize people with Lucha. It was a solid opening to also build those characters. Blue Demon Jr. holding on to so much legacy and heritage with his style, and then Chavo also coming from the Guerrero family and that being so iconic and people knowing that name. And also to see such an iconic mask as Blue Demon Jr., you know, the blue and silver, blue and white mask is something that people who maybe not even familiar with Lucha have seen in movies or on posters or in something that they can kind of recognize and go, oh, that kind of wrestling. I didn't know what it was called, you know, because unknown people don't know it's called Lucha. They're just like, oh, that's a masked guy and flipping around.
Why are there suddenly Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers in here? What's going on?
Right.
Shout out to '90s AAA, which whatever was going on in the. Actually, I've started watching a little more AAA because Pluto TV, another free television app, has a AAA channel and an Impact channel. So occasionally I'll just throw on old Impact or old AAA if I'm just like, you know, doing laundry or something, or if I need something in the background to like work, and then occasionally glance and go, huh.
Yeah, I've been watching. Actually, I have Pluto, and I've been watching old TNA as well. Also, they have a Mystery Science Theater and a Riff Tracks channel.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Man, we were just giving all the free advertisement to these apps, like same place that I found this desk today. The day before, I found an Amazon Fire TV down there that was free, an Amazon Fire TV and a Chromecast. But
well. What is this magical floor you just keep finding things on? Is it like Narnia? Do you go through?
Oh no! Tomorrow I'll go down there. There will be like a professional monitor there, and then there will be a camcorder. I'll just have all.
Just wish for things. Wish for things, and they'll appear in the area.
Exactly. Like, it is so weird. It's like it's been so convenient, but yeah, so many things. Film Rise also, but hey, let's get back on the subject.
I mean, again, if Tubi, Pluto, if you want to sponsor, we're one episode in, but you know what? It's never too soon to ask for sponsorship.
It's not, and this match again. It's very good. It's pretty technical. It goes to the outside, but it doesn't get hardcore. There's one thing I discovered that I hate so much in this show.
Is it the risers?
No, it's not the risers. I'm fine with the risers. What I hate is they have that overhead camera angle. The overhead camera angle that's just top down. It does not look good. It's very disorienting. The only time you ever see that in any other company is if they have a point of view of the briefcase or belt that's hanging up in a ladder match. Otherwise, that's just not a great angle to watch wrestling from.
I know it's not a great angle to watch wrestling from, but I don't think they care about that. I think they're trying to get their branding in, because if there's one thing about Lucha Underground you will learn to love and hate is they are branded. Everything, everywhere. I swear to God, the soles of people's shoes have the little Lucha Underground logo on them. Like, it is like the thing in the ring everywhere. You will see it hidden all over the entire. It's like a little Easter egg. Just look for different. It is hidden. It's on. At one point, there's a fire extinguisher. It's on the fire extinguisher. Like, just branding everywhere. It's everywhere.
I am going to be totally looking out for the fire extinguisher. Hopefully I remember, and I put this clip in whenever the fire extinguisher comes up, and I can see if Brittany's right.
I am. I'm an expert. No, but we'll just say I am. No one's going to say I'm wrong.
Yeah, now Blue Demon Jr. does end up winning this match with La Estaca Mortal, his personal submission, which is kind of cool looking. And from this, we go into Conan. Conan is in Dario Cueto's office, which is interesting because the way it's set up in the ring makes it look like the office is right there next to the ring. However, whenever they do filming inside of Dario Cueto's actual office, it seems like it's in some random hallway somewhere, and that like it is completely lit differently than the rest of the show. And let's talk about that, because the moment you see it, I immediately thought telenovela.
Oh yeah, straight up. I was ready for someone to come in and like scream in Spanish or cry in Spanish. Like, it was like so amazing to like see that kind of shot, and it's very telenovela. And by the way, his office is just up the stairs. There's this weird door that kind of looks like a high school like classroom door, and that's his office. So it is in this weird, it is almost like a weird hallway up up the side steps upstairs from so it is very close to the ring.
Okay, like, did you take a tour of it or something?
No, it's eventually he just runs out of it every now and then. They're like, there's his, sometimes they'll be like, he's up in his office, and you'll see like Dario Cueto up but it's literally right there where the people are sitting and right at the ring. So
still though, his office is somehow under a different filter and frame rate than the rest.
It has a way different vibe, and it's very quiet. I don't know if he added soundproofing, because it's so close to the ring. I would assume you would hear things, but like it is. He's apparently has soundproofing. It's very dark. There's a window. There's a backlit window, which I would have no clue he would have in like a dark underground temple. I don't understand how he has an underground office with a view, but it's yeah. I mean, he's Dario Cueto. He has whatever he wants. He's giving away $100,000. He does not care. Scarface.
Yeah, and Conan says that he is recruiting the best luchadors, and Cueto does mention that he got the best freelancer available, the top name on the independent scene, but he's brought him here so that he can teach him to respect lucha, that he has been known by many names, but here in my temple he is known as Johnny Mundo, and we get the glorious abs of John Morrison. When they come back from commercial, Morrison is just working out for no reason.
So I forgot about this part from originally watching it. So going back and watching this and him being like, I recruited the best. So like in my head, I'm thinking of all these different people because I forgot who it was. And I'm thinking of people like Prince Puma, and I'm thinking of Mil Muertes. I'm thinking of like all these different people that are in Lucha Underground, and it was never Johnny Mundo or John Morton. I was never him that popped into my brain, and so as soon as he said it, I just went, what? Really? And he's like, I'm like, oh, okay. And then when it cuts back to him just working out, I was like, did they just like forget to segue at all? Like, it's a little rough. The first episode's a little rough in their cuts, and I'm just like, oh, okay, he's just working out. He's just I mean, I guess parkour. He works out wherever he wants. The entire world is his gym.
For sure. They also, again, start talking about the 12 tribes of Aztec again, because we come back and right back into in-ring action, even though Johnny Mundo was working out in in-ring action. They go back to talk more about this mystery person that Conan has found, and talks about the 12 tribes of the Aztecs once again, and linking the mask, losing your mask to beheading, which I don't know if that's where the link comes from in Lucha of masks and losing it being equivalent to beheading, but it works on a logical sense.
It does. It really does. I have no clue. I am not an expert in Lucha.
Your rich Latino heritage isn't showing.
Yes, this with this white girl named Brittany with my rich Latino heritage. Lord, no. I wish. But it's not, that's just the cards I was dealt.
You're not from Cleveland, Mexico?
Close. So close to Mexico. I didn't even, where are we going with this? Johnny Mundo, and then we cut to another scene.
We're going to Prince Puma, and then, by the way, Conan specifically says his spirit animal is the jaguar. Which, granted, yes, I know the name for the jaguar, the cougar, and a puma are all the same thing, but he's like, his spirit animal is the jaguar, Prince Puma. It's like, consistency. You could have said Puma. We wouldn't have cared about the redundancy. That would have brought up less questions. And
I would have cared about the redundancy.
You would have cared about the redundancy? But it doesn't throw you off that they say jaguar and then Puma? What if they'd have said what if they'd have said something like, he bears the name of his spirit animal. His name is Prince Puma.
See, there you go. Okay, so now we need to go back to 2014. Get in your time machine, go be a writer, rewrite it, and then we'll talk about it later. But yeah, Prince Puma, which I mean now as Future World is Ricochet, but Prince Puma, back when he was Prince Puma, is just, it's so great to see him paired with Conan, but also kind of weird to see him paired with Conan, because whenever I see Conan, I think bad guy. And when I see Prince Puma, I think, of course, like, good guy superhero. No offense to Conan, but, like, he doesn't have a great track record.
Have you booked him?
No. Not to say I wouldn't. I mean, I've worked with, many people. So, like, with Conan, if you want to come down to New Orleans and do a show, call me.
Yeah. So our next match of the show, and again, this is Lucha Underground already making bold choices. We have Son of Havoc, who gets the jobber entrance of already being in the ring. Who is Matt Cross, which I know Matt Cross, good guy. I don't know what they're doing to his, if they're doing this in post or if they do it through the microphone, but they do something really weird with his voice where it is suddenly this deep.
So it's like a weird, I think they do it in post. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they do it in post, or it's a mic thing. I'm not entirely sure, because it continues for the rest of the series, just FYI. Prepare yourself for the very docile, like, Barry White tones of Matt Cross.
He sounds nothing like that.
No,
that was the distracting part for me, was that I knew who was under the mask, and yeah, spoiler alert, if you didn't know, it's Matt Cross. So Matt Cross, he's in there, and they bring out his opponent, Sexy Star, which we'll get into her later on in this show. We'll talk about her sometime, because man, there are thoughts.
My arm hurts.
Give her a break. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah.
We're off the air already.
But I was like, this isn't Combates Americas. Which she now does actually do MMA for, and I believe is undefeated, as Dulce Garcia, as well as someone else we'll see later on in the show is also with Combates Americas. Mm-hmm. But so she comes down. One thing they do here that I really like is they're able to give her an introduction package because of the nature of the show, because it's pre-taped and edited. They give you a package with her talking about who she is, how she survived. Very cool. I love what they did with that. That was great, and that is showing one of the benefits of having a show you can post-produce.
Right, and also, again, with the risers and the steps and all that kind of stuff, the entrances coming from the steps, just so you guys know, not only is it, like, great cinematically to see people, descend from the steps, but also very difficult to descend from steps when you're trying to have these giant ISIS wings flapping about, and also the audience is like this close to you. So it just when they're coming down the steps, give people more credit, because they also can't look down and look at the steps. So in those masks. So yeah, that's the fact that she made it to the ring, I was impressed. I wouldn't have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And those heels you wear, not happening.
No, that's why Melissa Santos is over in the corner. Which also about her, like, I love Melissa. I've worked with her now husband Brian Cage many times, and we've never met, but we've talked. It's so weird. Like we pass each other. We're like two ships in the night. But it's great to see her start out as ring announcing here, because she's not that good in the first episode. She's not good in the first couple episodes. Like, she's still trying to figure out how to introduce people and say things. And it makes me feel better, and it makes me see how far she's grown, how far announcers in general can grow. And, like, you just got to keep working at it. So it's nice to see, like, once I went back and watched it, I was like, oh, what is she doing with her voice there? And then I was like, oh, this is the first episode. I'm like, oh, she wasn't always good. Awesome. Good to know.
You got to get your head in the game. Get your head in the game. So the way this starts out is because this is an intergender match, which just reminds me of the scene from Sonic Boom where Knuckles talks about the more you point out the exceptionalism, it makes it stand out more than if you just went ahead with it, because they are talking about how the men are able to fight the women here. Son of Havoc says he wants nothing to do with it and gives her a chance to leave. She walks out, runs back into the ring to attack him, and the match is on. It is pretty balanced. Matt Cross Son of Havoc showing off incredible agility, Sexy Star using a lot of technical ability, and Son of Havoc, the guy who got the jobber entrance, like completely in this first episode, getting rid of my expectation of no entrance, no victory. He ends up getting the win by holding the tights, which I had to go back 3 times to watch that to see if there were tights being held, because I didn't see the tights get grabbed, and they just barely got grabbed that 3rd time I saw it.
It's like a pinch. It's like a, and I don't know if it was just because he couldn't see, like if he didn't, or if it was like a weird kind of because male female kind of thing. He didn't want to like grab her tights. But yeah, he got it in there, and yeah, it's that whole, no entrance, no victory kind of thing. Yeah, he got the victory, which was great to see, because when they started with the whole like, I'm not wrestling a girl, like blah blah, you would instantly think like, oh, she's gonna win, to show him like, yeah, I'm strong too, I'm gonna beat you up, yeah. And for him to win was kind of a good shock. It was to show like anything could happen, Johnny Mundo could be working out anywhere and anyone can get pinned. And Dario Cueto's office is somewhere. You don't know where, but it's somewhere. And Sexy Star.
Yeah, and we go back to the locker room. Again, very dramatically lit. And we have Chavo Guerrero in there being chastised by Dario Cueto for tapping out to Blue Demon, asking him what his grandfather would think, what his father would think, what his uncle would think. And now, since he's failed to take out Blue Demon, he's gonna have to get someone else to do it. And he gives us a little tease by saying, 1,000 deaths await us all. And I'm just saying that as a tease. Like, when I first saw this, I have no idea what's going on here. And he just dramatically exits the room. But again, very well shot, well directed, super cinematic.
Yeah, and that's what I'm loving about this. And just recently, when we saw WrestleMania and the cinematic stuff that they did there, it reminds me, going back and watching this, like, oh yeah, like the cinematic wrestling was with Lucha Underground. Like, that's, if you have never seen Lucha Underground, go watch it. If you enjoyed the Boneyard Match or Firefly Funhouse or anything like cinematic wrestling that you've seen in modern times, go back and watch, because it's got great. Yeah, but the locker room, I don't know how people get dressed in there. You can't see. You can't see anything.
You can't. Like, you can't. How do you apply makeup? By the way, that is probably, like, you and I both know, I'm not wearing it now. Maybe eventually I'll start wearing it up. This is actually getting pitched to another channel other than mine, which is the only reason I don't have my nose piercing in and don't have some makeup on. But putting on makeup in a locker room...
I don't have makeup on either.
Wow, your nose just got a little bit bigger. But yeah, putting on makeup in a dark room is like putting a makeup in almost any locker room is terrible. It's why one of my next pieces of merch is a compact mirror with a light.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I bring one. Yeah, I have one of those fold-out mirrors that has the little lights around it. I bring that everywhere with me. Like, I can't. Even hotel lighting. Like, if you're lucky enough to have a hotel, from the promoters, which shout out to all the promoters that give me hotels. Even the lighting in there is terrible.
Yeah, usually bathrooms are kind of okay, except they tend to be yellow instead of white. But that's a nitpick, only for the makeup specific people here. We get our main event though. Johnny Mundo versus Prince Puma. It's incredible. And again, if you didn't recognize, Prince Puma is Ricochet. Like, I was able to tell because of the tattoos. And also because Velveteen Dream at their takeover match wore Prince Puma inspired tights. I think that was in New Orleans too. Maybe.
It was.
Yeah. So I was there for that one. I snuck into floor seats for that. But we're not going to talk about that. I mean, I completely pay for all of my seats. Always WWE, and I'm happy with what I get. I have no idea what has happened here. But this match, like, we got the basis of Lucha. We got the foundation in the first match. We got something bold in the second. And in this third match, we get a glimpse of the future because these two men are just doing every good Lucha thing possible. The movement is so fast, so fluid, so incredibly acrobatic and athletic. I have one complaint, but let me ask you about your thoughts on this match first.
Man, if you wanted a main event, like that is a main event. Like I would want to see that again now, since they're both again in the same company. That'd be great. Because like it was so like you eased it in, and that's the thing is like they did it proper for even just any show, but for their first show, they slowly eased into it. They gave you the nice opening of like, this is Lucha. And then they gave you something completely different to be like, look, men and women can wrestle each other. Ooh, ah. And then they went into this like, okay, now to take off the little safety wheels. Like, now you're full on in it. And so to have that, I feel like, you know, even though most of the audience is people who know or what's going on and all that kind of stuff, and we're super hyped about it, I think for anybody who is watching at home for the first time, we're like, oh my God, I want more of this. Like they're like cartoon characters with all of the things that they can do with their bodies. Like nobody sees that kind of athleticism from that anymore. Like that's just, it's mind blowing. I love it so much.
I'm going to bring up something you brought up earlier. This is 6 years ago. Like this, like
yeah.
I'm spoiled in having like my job is watching wrestling, so I've seen a lot of wrestling. Like this was still a very good match. It wasn't anything groundbreaking for me, but for you, somebody watching this in 2014, what did you think of this?
Oh, I had never seen anything like. I mean, this was before all of the 205 and before, you know, they started bringing in more kind of lucha style even to mainstream like WWE and all that kind of stuff. So to see this stuff, you would have to watch AAA or you'd have to watch some kind of very specific show at the arena or anything like that. Like you would have to be integrated into it to see this kind of match. You didn't see it on regular wrestling, like, you know, normal TV wrestling as this time. You didn't see that. You really didn't. For me personally, I didn't see it on like the mainstream wrestling shows. These two kind of athletic people. If you had somebody athletic going against somebody else, it was usually a big strong man that kind of just threw them around and such. So to see these two go at it was mind-boggling to me in 2014.
Yeah, and Johnny Mundo is the one who ends up winning here with they introduce us to El Fin de Mundo. By the way, commentary, I'm going to gripe about commentary real quick. I mean, granted, they're not afraid to do the occasional swear. Matt Stryker is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Vampiro is there. Maybe.
I have a soft spot for Vampiro just because like he's there as a wrestler doing commentary-esque. Like I don't think he ever was like, I'm going to do commentary. I'm going to like hone the craft of commentary and like learn. I think he just put a headset on and went, yeah, I'm just gonna say things, you know. Like Stryker steers most of the conversation, and every now and then Vampiro's like, wow, that was shiny. Like, I mean, like it's just, I hate to say it, but like, don't worry, just stick out the commentary because
I have heard that he gets better.
He does. Which comedy and also comedy gold.
There wasn't a high bar to get better from. So, I like Vampiro. He's a great dude. Like Vampiro himself, met him several times.
Amazing man.
When we get to the final season, I'll talk about some things that happened prior to season 5 that never came. But
man,
yeah,
the season 5 that could have been. Maybe we should just make a season 5.
I do have possible funding.
Yeah, Tubi.
But Johnny Mundo ends up winning with the End of the World, El Fin de Mundo. To this day, and I've asked him this at shows. I'm like, so what's Starship Pain supposed to be? Where's it supposed to land? And he's like, wherever it does, because he knows that. He knows that whatever he's aiming for is not what he hits like 95% of the time.
No, his head goes a different direction. I mean, it's just like I I don't know. Yeah, that's a really good, wherever it, don't take that other wrestlers. Please, for the love of God, don't take that kind of approach. Only Johnny Mundo could take that kind of approach. Everyone else, please aim for something properly. Do not just say wherever it lands.
It's like, oh, he lightly grazed me with his thumb. I mean, oh.
Oh, God. I mean, yeah, it was such a good main event.
Yeah, and this isn't a heel face thing. This is a rookie versus a veteran. And
Correct.
Two incredible ones at that. And yeah, that was the main event. Dario Cueto comes out after the main event, and it's like, okay, great. Who's he gonna? Because clearly this was very impressive. Who's he gonna give the $100,000 to? And then suddenly,
dun dun dun!
Suddenly, two cholos and a big scary black man appear. I can say that.
I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, and start beating down Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma. And if you don't recognize the big scary black man, they call him Big Rick now, but he is the former Ezekiel Jackson. And he at this time he actually had a wrestling school up in Northern California, Brick House Pro. I know a few guys that were trained through there, but it's kind of cool. It was very unexpected. And Dario Cueto says that he wasn't opening this just up to luchadors, but any fighter. And these men were there for him. And the show goes off. There's a reigning boovation. And that's how the first episode ends. I think it ended quite strongly. What do you think?
I liked it because obviously he couldn't just give the $100,000 to somebody like, oh yeah, congratulations, here you get the $100,000, because then that would be the only episode of Lucha Underground. So
wait, does somebody actually finally get that $100,000 eventually?
Yeah, in season 5.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
God, I'm gonna be here all night, guys. I liked it. Again, rewatching it, I did not turn away. I did not just like casually watch it. Like, I avidly watched it. It's still 6 years later, still kept my interest. So for a first episode of anything, I mean, so many people tell you like, oh, just get through the first episode, then it'll get better. Whereas this first episode was still genuinely good. So yeah, I recommend people rewatching it. They're like, oh yeah, I've sat through Lucha Underground. I was like, no, go back and watch again. Like, you'll do it. I told you to. Do it.
Yeah, and for me, this was, again, my first time watching. I thought it was brilliantly done. I thought that this was unlike anything I had ever seen when it came to wrestling. Like, this, like, it was been said that wrestling isn't wrestling. Like, even WWE isn't wrestling. It's a television show about a wrestling show. And after seeing this, I have to disagree. This is a television show about a wrestling show. Like, this is legitimately well done television, and it kind of shows you the benefit of being able to have that just bit of production time, to not have to treat it as if it's a live product, to not have to treat it as though everything's happening as is, being able to see these backroom deals without having to be like, why are they talking like this in front of the camera? Them sucking you out with that stylistic difference just allows you to more easily accept that this is an environment, that this is a world in which we live in.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that they don't have like somebody running in TMZ style to get interviews and stuff like that. I love that it's still kind of like you're getting to look behind the curtain, but it's not a clear shot of them in, like, you know, here's the camera and they're just talking in front of the camera. Like, it's an actual cinematic, like, ooh, they're in a dark locker room, which I don't know why it's dark, but whatever. And ooh, like that kind of thing. Like, so I do. Kudos to the production team for doing that. And of course, it's Robert Rodriguez. I mean, like, you can't go wrong, honestly. I mean,
and with Robert Rodriguez, you could have told me that this show cost like $200 to make, and I'd believe it, because he's just a master at getting every cent out of whatever is invested into his project. And this looked like, I wouldn't be surprised if like Robert Rodriguez was a lifetime Lucha fan, because this was a labor of love, and you could see it in the way this was presented. I thought it was so. For episode 1, whether it's a good Lucha thing, bad Lucha thing, or just typical Lucha things, this was a very, very good Lucha thing.
Yes, very much so.
All right. Well, that's the end of episode 1. So, Brittany, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at lookitsbrittany or at lookitsbrittany.com.
And for me, you can find me everywhere as Frisco Flame. You can find me also under R. Felix Finch. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel right now. If you're on any kind of podcast app, eventually I will know what this is called and where it's airing and how often we put it out. And I thank you for joining us for this first adventure into Lucha Underground. So peace out, party peoples. I will see you next time.